All right, everybody, I am back, and we are going to start looking at the two assignments for this week, Math Tutor and Rock, Paper, Scissors. So your first step would be, of course, to have the template from PApplet copied into both of these and ready to go, and watch the first video so you can know how to set those up. So let's take a look at these assignments both before we begin. So in D2L, you'll see it in week 2, the If Assignments Part 2 PApplets. So the first one is called Math Tutor, and basically you can read through the details if you want to, but I can just show you what it looks like, and I'll give you a live demo of my version in a minute. So you click for new question, and it comes up with a new random question, and then you try to answer it, and you submit your answer. And if it's right, it'll tell you it's right. If it's wrong, it'll tell you what the right answer is, and then it also keeps track of your correct answers. All right, so that can be a handy program for a middle school student practicing their basic math skills. Second assignment is rock, paper, scissors. So I've designed mine a little differently than this based on the new PApplet template that I have available to me. But essentially you're going to pick one of these three weapons to play with, and the computer will pick their weapon, and then the program will decide who the winner is. So in this case here, I chose scissors, computer chose paper, and the scissors cut the computer paper. There's also a score down here, keeping track of how many wins I've had, how many the computers had, and that's basically it. Now in the first video, you should have already downloaded these images and put them into your project folder so they are ready to go. Let me show you mine really quick because they're finished, and then I'm going to work back and work on them with you one at a time. So I'll do Math Tutor first, and here's what mine ended up looking like. Slightly different design than what's in the assignment, and of course you're free to design yours any way you want to. So here it is here. Now you're going to get these little warnings that come up. These actually come up in NetBeans as well. You can ignore these little pop-ups here. Although this does come up too when you have errors, so you can clear this. And should any errors, like runtime errors, occur, you're going to see this thing pop up here, and it'll sort of give you a hint as to what might be wrong. Okay, it's the BlueJ terminal. It pops up automatically. I'm just going to minimize that for now. But here's the actual program here. So I can just get a new question down here, and then when I decide I want to answer a question, I submit it. Now this is going to be wrong. The right answer is 32. I can't submit again. Okay, so once I've submitted once, I can't resubmit for that question. I have to do another question first, and then it clears this out. So I'm going to get this one right. I'm pretty sure I know the answer. And then it just says you got it right, and it keeps track of your score. All right, so that's the first assignment. The second one, rock, paper, scissors. I will run this one and show you what this looks like. Okay, so I've actually got a button overlaying each of these images now. So if I pick rock, then notice how rock highlights, and it shows you that I've chosen that, and these two sort of stay dull. Computer rock covers your paper. Covers your paper, you lose. Okay, that should say computer paper covers your rock. I had a little typo there, but it is true that I lost, so the computer got one. So I'm going to try paper this time. And he also chose paper. I'll try scissors. And my scissors cut the computer paper. I won, so now it's a 1-all tie. All right, so you just keep playing this all the time, and every time you pick something, the computer picks something random, and it basically just tells you what happened for each game. All right, and it keeps track of your score. All right, and every time I pick one, it highlights, and then the other ones stay kind of dull. I can click here just to unselect them all. All right, so yeah, so those are the two games we're going to be, or the two, yeah, I guess they're called games that we're going to be making. All right, so I'm going to pause the video and get set up first with the Math Tutor, and then I'll be right back with solutions on that. All right, so I'm starting with my Math Tutor program with an empty file with just the template code in there to start with. And I'm just going to follow along with my solution up here, and you can do the same. So the first thing we're going to need are a bunch of labels. So I'm just going to put these at the top here. So these are all G labels, right? We need one for asking the question, so that's my Q label. We need one for the answer, A label. We need one for the result, whether you're right or wrong. I'll call that result label. And we need one to keep track of our score, so that'll be the score label. Okay, we need 2 buttons, so that would be a new button and submit button. And submit button. Okay, and we need 1 text entry, which is called a G text field. Okay, so this is where we can type in our answer. So we'll just call that, sorry, fix the typing up there. We'll call that guess box. Okay, now there's a few other variables that we're going to need, but we'll get into those later. So there's a bunch of primitive data types that we need and a random object. But we don't need those right away just to build the interface. So you can either pause and put those in, or you can wait later till I put them in myself. Okay, what I want to focus on now is just the code and setup to build this thing. All right, so when I was making my labels, I found there was a lot of repetitive code in setting these things up. So in your template is this thing called a make label method. All right, now don't worry if you don't understand this too much, because we're going to be learning more about methods later on in the course. But basically, to make a label, you got to supply the XY coordinate, the width, the text, and the size. Okay, and the size is for the font size, because I'm using this Arial font, and then whatever size that you supply. As an option, if you want to turn on the opacity, you can just uncomment this here to turn them all on or off. Okay, but let me show you how this makes it easier for us to make labels. So now we don't have to write like all of this code. We can just do it all in 1 line of code. All right, so you can see how I've done that over here. Okay, so let's just focus on this Q label, for example. All right, I'll start with that. Okay, so Q label equals, and I'm just going to make a call to my make label method. Okay, so it does all the new G label, this and all that. All I got to supply is the X, the Y, the width, what I want it to say, which is just a sample text for now. What is 3 plus 3? Question mark. Okay, and then 40, so comma 40, which is the size of the font. All right, so that's my first label, and you know, from there I can run this. I can compile it just so you can see how that works, and I'm just going to run it really quickly. Okay, so what is 3 plus 3? Now I haven't changed the background color of this yet, or the color scheme or anything like that, but you get the idea of what that looks like so far. All right, so we will continue. I believe the color scheme is 4, so I can put that in already. So G4P, and you can hit Control spacebar, dot Control spacebar, and if you start typing set color scheme, set global color scheme actually is the one I'm looking for. There we go. And I'm going to set it to 4. Okay, so that'll control the color of the text. All right, and if I compile that again and I run that again, you can see it looks a lot there. That's what I'm going for. All right, so basically that's how we make labels in this new template. We use the make label command, and then it just runs all of this information down here for me. Okay, so I supply an X, a Y, a width, the text, and the size. All right, so I'm going to pause the video and make the other labels, and then you can pause the video so you can see them all, so that you don't have to watch me type out the entire thing. All right, so I finished typing out the code to design this thing. All right, so pause the video here and you can see how I've positioned each of these. All right, but you can I can go over this with you really quickly. So the Q label is this guy up here, and it's in a size of 40 font. And then the answer goes here is literally this label that says answer goes here. Okay, and it's size 18. And then see result after answer is here, and it's size 18. And then I made the score a little bit bigger at 20. All right, and remember this is the X, Y, and the width of each label. The default height of each label is, I think, 30. So they all fit in just right. All right, and then I have a guess box, which is at 340/60, and it's 50 by 30. So this and the buttons we still make the same way. Okay, so X, Y, width, and height. So 340 is across, and then 60 down, and then 50 by 30. The submit button is at 420/60, which is this guy right here, and then the new button's at 120, 200, all the way down here. It's a wide button, 300 wide, and it's 30 tall as well. All right, so when we first load this thing, we don't want it to always say what is 3 plus 3. So in setup, we want to actually generate a new question. Okay, so I can just type new question here, okay, and then that's going to look for another method called new question. Okay, now we don't have such a method right now, so it's going to cause an error. But what I want to do is quickly create a separate method, public void new question. Now, you may remember this way back in the day when we were all together in class to get back before COVID. We had the mountain assignment where I had you draw a picture, and we had it separated into different methods called draw a tree, draw a mountain, draw a sky. So this is exactly the same thing. So this is just a separate section of code, and its job is to generate a new question. And then whenever we want a new question, we can just call the method by saying new question bracket bracket. Now the other place we're going to want to do this, of course, is when we click on the new question button. All right, but we want a new question generated right off the bat. We don't want it to always be 3 plus 3. All right, so now we have to fill in the blanks down here. All right, so at the top here, we need a couple of variables. We need a variable called num1, which is the first part of the question, num2, which is the second part of the question, answer, which is the answer of the question. Okay, we also need a char symbol, okay, which is going to be either a plus, minus, or multiply. Okay, so this question is formulated with number 1, a symbol, and then number 2. And then we calculate the answer so that the program knows what answer to expect. All right, so the other thing we need is a random object. So random r equals new random. Okay, this is going to be to generate some random numbers for us. We can get different random questions. Now, part of the template at the top already imports things like font and random, so we don't have to worry about those. But just so you know, you do have to import these things if you want to use them in your own programs. All right, so now in the new question, first thing we're going to do is we're going to generate a random number for the first number. So I'm going to say num1 equals r dot next int 12. Okay, so that says random number r, generate a random number from 1 to 12. All right, and then we'll do the same thing for num2. Just copy and paste that. Okay, so this will be number 2. Okay, now for the symbol, actually we need another variable for that, don't we? So let's have another symbol up here, or sorry, another variable, which I'm going to call op. Okay, op is for the operator, which is going to be a 1, 2, or 3. And if it's a 1, symbol will be a plus. If it's a 2, it'll be a minus. If it's a 3, it'll be a times. All right, so first we have to generate a random number for op. So equals r dot next int 3. All right, so now we're going to use an if statement to decide what the symbol and the answer are. So if the operator equals 1, we're going to make that a plus. All right, so I'm just going to put these here, and we'll just open that up. Else if the operator equals 2, right, then we'll do something else. Open that up. Else we'll make it something by default. All right, so if I come back up here, fill in the blanks, basically we're going to say two things. We're going to say symbol equals the plus symbol in this case. Okay, and then the answer equals num1 plus num2. All right, now I'm getting an error here because this is a char, so I've got to use single quotes, not double quotes here. All right, so hopefully you sort of see the pattern of what we're trying to do here. Operator 2, we're going to make the symbol a minus sign, and that means the answer is going to be num1 minus num2. All right, so that the program knows what the answer is that we're trying to guess. Else, the symbol will be for multiplying, but I'm going to use an X for that. And then the answer will be num1 times num2. Okay, so now that we have the parts we need for the question and we know what the answer is, we can now print the answer into QLabel. So I can say QLabel dot set text, All right, and I'm going to use inside of here a string.format. Okay, this is an easy way to use placeholders for the parts of my question. Okay, so the way this works is we're going to say what is, and then we're going to plug in the first number. Then we're going to plug in the symbol. So %s, %d, question mark. Okay, so this is going to be placeholders for num1, num2, and the symbol. All right, and I'm missing a quote right there. All right, so if I run this now, when I call new question, it should say something different than what is 3 plus 3. All right, so I'm just going to compile this again. And by the way, when you compile, it kills the other running of the program for you automatically. Okay, and so that's been done. So now I'm going to go back to my main menu here, if I can find it. There we go. And I'm going to run this. Okay, so this might be something that happens to you when you're running and you're waiting, and probably what's happening is there's an error going on in the background that I can't see. Okay, so I'm just going to go to View, Show Debugger. No, nothing there. View, Show Terminal. There we go. All right, so sometimes you have to turn it off and turn it on again. Okay, so it looks like there is some kind of an error happening here. So we have a null pointer exception, and then it's complaining about Java line 50. Okay, so that's down here. QLabel.setText. Okay, so I'm glad I got an error there because it showed you during the video what happens sometimes when you go to run your program and you get a runtime error. So I haven't fixed the problem yet. I want to just recreate that one more time. So it says it's compiled, right? So then if I go to try to run it and OK, and it just kind of hangs. Okay, now this time around the terminal came up and it showed me that I had an error. All right, now sometimes that doesn't show, and if that's the case, then you may want to go like this, view, uncheck that, and then check it again, because it might get caught behind a window somewhere, and then when you reopen it, it'll be up here in front. So it is common for this to happen. We get this in NetBeans too, but it just comes up at the bottom of the screen rather in a different window. Okay, and you can control, or I guess you can option clear it, and then you can get a fresh console if you want to look for some new errors. But this is a common thing that happens. So let me go back and fix the problem now. One of the problems is I should be adding 1 to this. Okay, so we have to supply a minimum number. Okay, but that wasn't what was causing the error. So down here is where the error was being caused. I have a placeholder for a number, and then a symbol, and then another number. So I've got this in the wrong order. It should be num1 first, and then symbol, and then num2. All right, so let me compile this again. And again, no syntax errors. Let me see if it will run this time. Okay, so there we go. And you can see I've got a new question. What is 12 times 11? Okay, that was generated from the new question method. Okay, now I'm going to attach it to this new question button as well. So every time I click this, I get a new question up here. All right, so this is where the part of the template is different. We used to have the other mouse pressed G-event button, I think it was called, method, and that didn't work with this version of BlueJ. So I had to install my own method to use with mouse press, and it's called hit button. Okay, but it's actually quite easy to use. So up here in mouse press, we just go like this: if hit button, okay, and then I supply the button that I want to hit, okay, which in this case is the new question, or the new button rather, button. So if hit button new button, just like that, and then on the next line I'll just say new question. Okay, and that's all I have to say, because new question already has all the commands for a new question, and the new button can also run that method when it's hit. All right, so if I compile this and I go to run it, All right, every time I hit this, I get a new question up there. All right, so we're getting there. The only thing we have left to do is the submit button. So the job of submit is to take the answer out of here and compare it to the actual answer. And if it's right, it'll say it's right and I get a point. If it's wrong, it'll just say it's wrong and tell me what the right answer is. All right, so for that, we'll create another method. Okay, so we have new question. Why don't we create one called answer question? So public void answer question. Okay, so we don't want to call this unless I hit the submit button. So right away, I can go down to mouse pressed and I can just say if hit button new button, right, then we want to answer the question. So I'll just say answer question, just like that. All right, so now we just got to fill in the code for that, and then we are done. Okay, now it's actually called the submit button. I just realized that, so I'll fix that up down here. Submit button. All right, so how does answer question work? Well, we have a variable called answer equals the number that's in the answer box, or the guess box. Actually, sorry, let me just fix this up here. My mistake. The answer is the answer to the question. We need another variable called guess. Just realize that. All right, so down here, I'm going to make this guess equals integer dot parse int guess box dot get text. All right, now we have done this in the past. Guess box is my gtext field, and get text will get the text out of it, but it comes out as a string. This converts it to a number. All right, so now we just compare it to the answer. We just say like if guess double equals answer, right? Then we'll do something else. We'll do something else. All right. So if it equals the answer, then our score, which starts out at 0, by the way, and I don't have a variable for that either. So let's just keep tacking on new variables here. Score equals 0. All right, so then here I'm going to say score plus equals 1. Okay, and then my result label is going to say something like good job, you got it right. Okay, and that should say set text. Just like that. All right, else we're going to set the text to some kind of an error message or a wrong message. So we'll say wrong, but we're going to be a little bit helpful here. We're going to say the right answer is plus, and then we can print the answer just so they know what the answer was. All right, but notice we don't give them a point for that. Okay, now if they do get a point, we should also update the score label at the same time. Okay, so here's my score label up here. I'm just going to copy this so I don't spell it wrong. Dot set text, and it's going to say score plus the variable score. Okay, so this is a quick and easy way to just tack on a number at the end of a sentence, and you can just throw it in together into the label. All right, so I think that's pretty much this question. The other thing we might want to do, though, when we go to do a new question, we might want to also clear out the result label, and we also want to prevent the user from answering the question more than once. Okay, so the last job of the answer question method then will be to turn off the submit button. Okay, so we go like this: submit button dot set enabled false. Okay, that means we can no longer click it, which means when we do a new question, we've got to turn that button back on. So let's just come back down here and we'll quickly turn it back on. So see this code here, submit button set enabled false. I'm just going to bring it down here and I'm going to set it back to true. That means when a new question is generated, I'm now allowed to answer it again. All right, and then the last thing is I don't want this old message of good job, you got it right to be there. I want it to go back to reset to what it was at the beginning, which is see result after answer. So let me just steal this big line of code up here, and I'll just borrow it to make that happen. All right, and then I think we're done. So I'm going to change this to dot set text, and then I don't need this number when I'm doing that, and that should do it. All right, so I will compile this and we'll test it. It's no errors. Hopefully it works when I go to run it, and so far so good. So if I put in the wrong answer and submit, wrong. The right answer is 4, and I didn't get a point, and I can't submit again. But if I put new question on here, I get a new question. Now I could also maybe erase the old answer out of here, and I'll get it right this time, and I got it right. Okay, so I'm going to erase this answer when I do a new question, and I will also maybe put a box around this. All right, so under new question, I can quickly just go like this. Guess box dot set text to 2 quotes. Okay, that'll erase the old answer. And then down in draw, I had this but I took it out. If I set a stroke color to like a brown color, and then here's the rectangle I drew originally that goes around the result. From 100, 100, it's a width of 440 and a height of 70. Right, and you can pause the video to sort of get that, but when I compile this now, this should be my final version. Okay, so you can see that nice box there, and I'll get this one right, and I get a point for that, and if I do a new question, it clears out my box, and I can do another question, and I can just keep going. Alright, so that's the first one done. In the next video, we will look at rock, paper, scissors.